Hi there, Michael here. The first video was about composing the drum track with the Crocell kit. And now in the second part we'll have a look on how to mix it with an Ardour. So let's go directly to the screen. Okay, so back on the screen. So what I did in the meantime, I finished at least the composition in principle. So this is then the structure of the song. There are some parts which probably will change, especially this what I call the cheesy Jesse part. Maybe part B, but I will have a look at how it goes with recording and if there come changes into mind. So I also recorded a bass, a DI track, and the with a sound from the Helix. So it's a bit of distorted tone. So let's maybe just it's a little bit of distorted bass tone. So what I did, I imported the drum track, exported the MIDI in Muse, imported the MIDI here. Here we have it. So that's the drums, and used the Drumgizmo with the Crocell kit loaded and printed the tracks. So routed the Drumgizmo outputs to these tracks. So let's remove the MIDI to don't get distracted. And here are the outputs of Drumgizmo. If you want to know how exactly I do this and do the routing, please look up I think it's the second video in the Libre music production series where I printed the drum tracks from Drumgizmo, so it's the same. So these are the Drumgizmo tracks. Yeah, and then I have some buses here, and I created them on demand. So the most important bus here is of course the drums master. So I can control the volume of the whole kit. So everything goes in here. Then we have in between, because we have more microphones, we have 2 microphones for the snare and we have 2 for the kick. They both go then into, both snares goes into the snare bus, both kicks goes into the kick bus, and all the toms go into the tom bus. Then we have a reverb here, which is then for the snare reverb, and then we have a parallel bus for the parallel compression. We'll have a look at that later. And all these buses go then into the drums master, which then goes into this master. Yeah, so that's the first thing. For the details, I have given quite some details how to do the routing in the audio connections tab in the Libre music production video. So if you want to have details on how to do this exactly, please have a look at that. Today I want to focus on how to mix this stuff. Yeah? And the first thing you should always do on drums is to check the phase of, if you have more microphones for something. So snare top, snare bottom should be in phase, and also kick in, kick out should be in phase. So for example, let's zoom in on that, and if we have a look, and it looks already, let's turn off the grid, this looks already quite good. Yeah, so we have an upwards peak and also here and downward, so they seem to be in phase quite well. Yeah. It's important if you have 2 microphones on the same instrument. The thing is, if it's not the case, then it can sound a little bit cheesy. So let's solo the kick here, just to show you. So that's how the normal kick sounds. So now let's turn one phase so it gets inverted. So this up peak will now be a down peak, and then the thing is that these two can cancel each other out, so it sounds much weaker. Yeah. In relation to. Yeah. So you can lose a lot of punch, especially with bass and kick instruments. So to check the phase relations is always quite important. So let's see where we have some snare hits. Yeah. Yeah, and we see it's also quite good. So let's solo them. But turn all solo off. And you can always try to flip one phase and then yeah, doesn't change that much, so it seems to be okay. Yeah. Could be here. Sometimes you have to try, but it looks quite well, so that the engineers knew how to place the microphones. Okay, so the thing is phase aligned. That's the one thing. So next thing, I just solo the kits here. It's quite natural sounding. So the first thing I did was a balance of the volume levels. Yeah, just to have a look. So I started with the kick. I got it like this. This is the relation. This is the kick in, the kick out microphone, and I put up the trim a little bit with 7 dB on both because it was a bit quiet. Yeah, that's the kick, and this is the kick bass. And then the snare top to snare bottom is always, the bottom is a little bit lower so that the rattling is not that too prominent, but it can sound a little bit trashy if it's too much. Yeah. On the other side, it's the snare is a little bit dull, so I added a little bit more than usual. Then the toms are fairly equal in loudness. What we have here, yeah, the hi-hat microphone is fairly low because most of it comes from the overheads. The same with the right. The right microphone has a lot of problems with bleed, which we'll see later. And then the overheads and the rooms. The rooms are overhead center a little bit lower. The overhead quite high, and also the rooms quite high currently. So this will probably change a bit. These are just basic levels. I even tend to sometimes not to use the hi-hat and the right channel. We'll have a look. And next thing we'll have is for editing is looking at the toms. So I just show you. Just have a look at the tom tracks. So what you see here, this is, I solo them. This is not the toms. This is the tom. Yeah, and this is called the bleed. So if you set up a natural acoustic drum kit and you have microphones everywhere, so of course the microphones pick also up other sources, and this is called the bleed. And especially on toms it can get annoying, and one of the biggest bleed problems always in mixing is the relationship between hi-hat and snare, because they are placed next to each other. So let me see if I have a picture here. Remember, these are the pictures of the drum kits. Okay, it doesn't get bigger. So what you see here is the snare and the hi-hat are quite close together. So you have here a microphone, and then you have also separate microphone. I don't think you see it well here, but for the hi-hat. So, and of course, the snare microphone picks up a lot of the hi-hat. The hi-hat picks up a lot of the snare. And also with the toms, yeah, these microphones are here, but if you hit the snare is, the snare is quite loud, so it will get onto these microphones. And also, you also get the cymbals into the microphones and so on. And this is called the bleed. What you naturally want to do is to minimize this. So already finished drum sample libraries normally have cut out the bleed as far as possible. You get the individual samples of the drums, and then you get overhead samples, which are 2 microphones, and in this case for the Crocell kit it's 3 microphones, and the room microphones extra, so to add the room impression. And on room and cymbals overheads, you naturally want to have some bleed. You want to have in the room microphones, you want to have the complete kit, while in the overheads you normally want to have only the crashes, the cymbals, crashes, right, China, etc. And most of the time, yeah, you have on the right you have an extra microphone, and but also on the Crocell kit it has tons of bleed, and especially the other cymbals and the toms are on this microphone in parts louder than the ride itself, so I don't know if I will use it. And for the toms, it's very simple. The toms are not hit that often, so one of the things that a lot of producers do is just simply cut the toms hits out and delete the rest, and then you get rid of the bleed. Yeah. So in this example, just zoom in, and because now it's, yes, it's quiet. Yeah, so the toms hit are only this. Yeah, so if we cut here, and we just make a cut here just for demonstration. So delete that, and then on this you have only, yeah, and with the other, I'm sorry, sometimes Ardo doesn't like cutting and editing a lot, so it crashed. Yeah, but the thing is, I have now focused on all 4 tom tracks, and just cut them out. So I'm quite sorry, I have a little bit of an unstable Ardo version. Thing is, I compiled from Git. I reported a bug in Ardo, and Robin Guerreros was so nice to fix it immediately within an hour or so. So thanks, Robin, for this. And yeah, so this is a Git version. It's not really stable. So the thing is, if I use the cutting tool on this track especially, then somehow Ardo crashes. Don't know why. So but it's very easy to mitigate this. So just use the range tool and then cut the parts. That's the thing. So I've cut out quite a lot of this. So there is a ring out without much bleed, so it's okay. Can just shorten this to that. And these are the hits, so they sound now a little bit cut, but in the mix it will not be that obvious. So if we go just to solo these 4 tracks, and of course I should also put the drum master back. So we could also leave it a little bit longer here. Let's see. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, and the bleed you now heard is from the other tracks. Ah, okay, I accidentally cut the snare bottom here. Well, there's nothing happening anymore. Anyway, so I will pause the video and we'll just cut out the toms you have not seen. So just mark a region, cut it out, and then adjust the length until it sounds fine. I'll do this for the toms, and I'll have a look at the ride also if to do it there. Yeah. Okay, here we have a little bit of an interesting situation. This is in this Jesse GC part, and so you see here that the tom hits are quite low, yeah, in volume. So let's have a listen. And the thing is, we have the ride coming in. It's only the tom track soloed, but you hear the ride, and you see it also here. So it's more prominent on the floor toms because the ride is placed above the first floor tom, so it's the loudest here. And it gets also a little bit here. It's not so prominent in these two toms. Yeah? The thing is, we have these first two hits. That's not a problem. We can shorten them. Here we have the right hit. Yeah, it's very little. So let's have. So if we zoom a little bit in just to this part, this is the right hit. And with this tom, we can try to cut it out. The thing is, the problem is then, let's just again fit them to the screen with the lowest tom, because if I also filter it out here, it's a little bit short. Yeah. So you hear now the ride is gone, and it's for these three toms it's not a problem, but this tom is now cut a little bit cut. So if we make it longer, the ride is there, but it's quite low, so we can let it here and hope if we boost the highs on the toms that it will not come out and disturb too much. But this is one of the things with which you have to account with bleed, and it's even more prominent on snare and hi-hat, but there we can use a special trick. Yeah, a question why I cut this and don't use simply a gate, because with this cutting I'm much more precise and can cut out things with sample accuracy, while with a gate you are always dependent on the level. And also, if I have single hits and I have, for example, in this situation, I could just record this one tom hit clean without the ride, and then copy just the sample in here. In fact, it's what some producers then do on editing before they go to mixing, if they have a tom and a cymbal hit at the same time. So sometimes they do this sample replacement to get it more cleanly. I just don't want to get too clean. It should still sound realistically and maybe a little bit washy. That's okay. But the thing is, if you then have to boost or compress hard, maybe this comes out a little bit unpleasant. So we'll have to have then a look at the mixing. Okay, so basically done that. So you see you have now a lot of small regions which have just the tom hits inside. And don't forget to save as usual. For example, for the runs here. Yeah, and you hear you get a lot of the things you get from the room microphones and from the overheads. So these are the room, from this tom fill, these are the toms alone now. Sorry. Yeah, quite cut, but also clean. You hear the ride in the background. These are the rooms. So you get a lot of background information, and the room itself will not be cut. So, but now we can at least process the toms individually a bit more. So yeah, the thing on snare and hi-hat, you can't do that, because most of the time snare and hi-hat, or a lot of times, they are hit together. So you can't cut it then out. So you have to do some different stuff. The thing is, what I want to have a look at is the ride. Yeah, you see here, these are the really loud spikes. Yeah, and the ride is constant, but you see the toms are on the ride microphone. The toms are louder than the ride itself. So this is the ride itself, and here some other instruments kicking. So let's have a listen. Whoops. This is the ride microphone alone. And you see that the peaks of the toms are louder than the ride. So I'm afraid maybe I'll just don't use the track. The bleed is far too high. Let's have a listen. And I think the ride is loud enough in the overhead, so maybe I'll just... We'll have a try, but maybe I just skip the ride and just use the overheads. And the same on the overhead center. I think with the overheads and the rooms it should be enough, so we'll have a look. Okay. So next thing is, so if we have the relative loudness from here, from the mixer, so the mix for this song should be based around the snare. So kick and snare will be important, but the snare is the driver, so it's always a little bit okay, we are on the slow part. So there's a mix trick I normally use before starting to mix the individual drums, and this is on the master fader. So I already add then a chain, and it's also a little bit detailed on the Libre music production videos, but just to go through it again. So one of the things is, first I add a limiter so that we don't blow up our ears if we do something stupid like boosting excessively. Then before, the first thing in the chain is a half sidechain compressor. And what I do here, I go to pin connections, and the first two, these are the inputs of the compressor, and this is the sidechain inputs here. They have no, half compressor has no sidechain marked, inputs marked as sidechain explicitly. So just connect them so that we get a sidechain signal. And so the sidechain is the signal which triggers the compression itself. And what I want here is first we go, so a ratio, so about 3, let's say. And I want to trigger the compressor when the snare hits, so that the whole mix is compressed when the snare hits, so the snare stands out more. So well, high pass, I think that's quite good. So this is the filter for the side chain, and the snare is about in the 200 Hertz region. So we filter out the lows from the kick, so that the side chain only reacts more to the hits from the snare. Yeah, and you see, if you just listen to the side, this is the sidechain only. So let's put the drums in, the whole mix. Let's do it a little bit more extreme. So let's get the snare out a little bit more. So normally you do this on the whole mix, so this is just a preview of what will be done. So there are, all other instruments are missing, the guitars are not recorded finally and so on. But what I want to hear, if you have a look here, then now it got on each snare hit only is the compression. And that's what I want. Okay, so the next thing is Calf equalizer, and I have a preset here which is the Nolly Master EQ. It's already explained also in the Libre music production, so it just does a little bit boost in the lows and it does a little bit boost in the highs to get the more modern record sound, and also disable the listen functionality. This is without. So it already sounds a little bit more exciting. The next thing I usually do is a little bit of tape saturation. Just a little bit. and then the Calf, where is it? Multiband enhancer. And this one is not used to add saturation or enhancement or something like that. So more allowed to go to 100, yeah, 126 or something like that. And here you can adjust the stereo base of the fields. So here now you have a stereo image in the bass, which I don't want. I want that everything below this hertz is mono. So I do this, so we have just the mono. This is then better for a cleaner mix, and just the highs make the stereo image. That's the only function I use that for. And we have our limiter. Okay, so this is the setup for basic mixing. So let's go first with the kick. So I don't process these two separate. The reason is kick is important in the lows. So if you do equalizing, you always have a phase shift with normal equalizers. There are some linear phase equalizers you can use, and you don't have this phase shift. And but in this case, I just put them to one bus and then do the processing on the bus. So the first thing is, of course, I want to have a gate. So. So here you get also the background noise and the snare hits on the kick microphones. Also just make this lower. And here you get only the hard hits. So the thing is, how much do you want? Yeah, I want a little bit more. Yeah, something like that. So we get a little bit the snare out of the way. So next thing is EQ. So normally I do the surgical cuts before. There are different ways to use EQ. Sometimes to shape the tone, sometimes to simply cut out stuff you don't need. And the first thing I want to do now is first shape the sound. And for this I use the PEQ2A, which is really suited for kick. So normally we go with the lows to 60 Hertz, and I just play around. And the thing is, this is a simulation of a real hardware. And one of the settings is if you boost and attenuate at the same time, then you get a quite pleasant sound for kicks. So let's see. So I quite like how that sounds. So we'll go quickly through that. And then let's have a look. So we have a lot of lows. So what I do now is I add a high pass, 30 Hertz. So let's loop that a bit. For example, this part. And you see here, if we boost very high, then you get also the cymbals and the snare and the stuff in the way. So sorry. Okay. Equalizer. Then, of course, we do some compression. Then let's see. What we can do is also add a little bit of saturation. And the thing is, maybe I could try to get rid of some of the highs. Okay, so for the first thing, let's let it like that. So let's have a listen at the snare. The thing is this slowly increasing roll of the snare. So we need to get quite low with the yeah. And also check the lower hits on the yeah, maybe we'll have to adjust it later also. So let's have a look. So and here we have too much of the rattling, so I removed the bottom a little bit. So let's try a trick here. We use the multiband gate. And we'll just use the high band. So what this actually does is it's a gate, but it's just on the highs. So it opens only when the snare hits. You get the full frequency range, and then if the a little bit lower, if it goes down again, then the highs are dampened, and that's how to now the highs are dampened so that the hi-hat and the cymbals are not that loud. So here you have a lot more highs if it's bypassed, yeah. So that means that we are now with the equalizing, we can be not that conservative. So as a first impression, we can also try in before again the pick. And then we have yeah. Then let's compress it. With a compressor, I aim between -3 and -6 dB, not more. And also try to match the output level. So that you don't have a volume change if you bypass it. So compression. Then what we can do is, because it's a rather short snare, so what we can also do is add another compressor and then have a completely different setting and use that as a parallel thing. So just for the snare, let's switch it to peak. Let's really crush the snare. So this sounds like a complete garbage, which is intentionally. So we have here a mix knob. So let's just try to mix it in. So just listen. So you have a small sustain of the snare, but if I bring it in, we get a little bit of the sustain back. So that's the reason to do this. Yeah, then we add just a send to the reverb, and now currently put that to 0. So let's try. I tried different reverbs last time, but for a quick thing, use half reverb. not really entirely satisfied with the reverb. It's reverb plugins under Linux are a little bit of a hassle. So yeah, for the sake of showing, I'll let it now, but maybe we'll change that later. Maybe I will use an impulse response for a drum room or something, or a plate from a lexicon. I don't know. Okay, I played around a bit and gave also the kick a little bit of parallel compression. So next would be the hi-hat. For the hi-hat track I don't want to do much, so just a quick run, something like that. I think I'll mute the right track and don't use it. Yeah. Good, so next would be toms. So as we put all the toms onto one group, yep. In top-down mixing, just apply the things to the toms as group and then to the individual toms if we need them. So let's, for example, no. Range, set range selection. Just see if we glue them a little bit together. just 1 to 2 dB knockdown, not much. Let's also put them to the reverb. Nope. So you hear they are quite present on the snare. There's not so much we can do about this now. In context. So I played around a bit and finally changed the reverb to an impulse response of a Lexicon drums plate, and I just downloaded somewhere. It's much better. Also I added the transient designer to the toms to boost the attack and a little bit the release. The attack boost is important so that I felt a little bit lacking in the attack, and also added to the higher toms a little bit of just some dB equalizing. That's now them with the reverb. And yes, next thing, overheads and rooms, and then the parallel compression, and then we're finished. So let's first start with the stereo overheads. So first in the overheads, they should be for the cymbals. So I want to get rid of the bass of the kick and the snare, at least some bit of the snare. So what I'm doing is just high passing. And there is mostly this annoying frequency on the cymbals, around 7 to 10K. So something like that. Of course, compress it. So let's see if we can get the snare more out of the way. It will sound quite unnatural. But the snare is extremely loud on the overheads too, so... it triggers the compressor quite heavy, so I wanted to get rid of it, and then we'll add it in the room microphone. So let's have then a look later on them. Okay, yeah, so let's go to the rooms. Okay, so just the basic balance, then we'll have a look at the parallel processing. And then we'll have a look with the guitars. So so let's put here a fast compressor. And squash everything. Parallel. And then of course we have to route. And we do that post fader. So if we put this sand post fader, then the volume of the fader will actually say how much of this is sent to the parallel compression bus. And this can be quite handy. Oops. So we start. Oh, come. The toms. And even a little bit of the reverb. And overheads and rooms. Let's say -10. Yeah, something like that. So it's for a basic start, I think that's not that bad. So just unsolo the master and let's have a listen. But that's then something we have to look at. You hear this harsh sound here, so there's something wrong here about 49. So I will have a look at that later. So let's hear the low volume part. Okay, just one more thing. Let's give the toms also quite radical treatment. Yeah, okay, so I would say as a basic mix, that's okay. Keep in mind that a lot of instruments are still missing. So, example for this Jazzy part, there's also some more soundtrack things here. So there will be some synth and orchestral stuff, and I'm not quite sure. And also possibly a larger synth intro. I'm not sure. So let's have a look. But let's wrap this up. I think it's long enough. So the thing is, the important thing. Started with the master chain, set up the tracks. I have here the drums master, kick, because there are multi-channel, multi-microphone kick. I put it to a bus. Same with the snare. Process them in unison. Changed a little bit the levels of snare top, snare bottom because of the rattling. Put the drums on a bus. Processed the bass, then did some individual things. The transient designer is the most important thing. And also some small equalization, compression, parallel compression. Put this also to a reverb, which is an impulse response, because it sounds better than the generated reverb from the Calf plugins. I may play around with Mverb a little bit. I think it's for snare, it might be quite good, but for a quick thing with these impulse responses, I know I can't get wrong. And yeah, massive compression on the parallel bass with some sends. Overheads needed to filter out quite heavily because the snare is very dominant on the overheads. On both on the stereo and on the mono, and both compressed a little bit heavily, sent also to the parallel bus, not the mono signal but the stereo, and the rooms treated. I here don't filter out the kick and the snare, so just a little bit of bring a bit roundness in, put the harshness out. There's still this problem part at bar 49. I have to listen where this comes from. And also I'm not quite satisfied with the sound of the cymbals. They are too harsh. So there will be some fiddling here, and also in combination with the other things. So mixing in isolation is for some things it's good, for some things it's bad. Let's have a listen with all the plugins disabled. So I will now disable all plugins and then enable them, play them and then enable them, so that we have a difference. So let's have a listen. Okay, so let's enable them back. So let's hear the same section with the plugins enabled. So not perfect, and also guitars. There's some few things from the guitar which need to be cut out. Okay, and also of course, the guitar needs to be recorded in the first place. This is still the pilot track. And also the bass is not matched to the kick drum and so on. So a lot to do still, but it already sounds a lot better. And the purpose of this video was to show how you can mix the kit. And how it then sounds a little bit more mixed. The thing is also we had here problems, if you remember. I got them out of the way by adjusting the multiband gate. I put the frequency, I played with the frequency and the values, so mostly the threshold, the reduction, and because this noise was on the snare track, and with this gate I could reduce it so much that it's not noticeable anymore. So the snare sound is still not perfect, and I will meditate about it. But also I changed another few things. So I added a saturator also on the toms and on the overheads and the room, to give them a little bit more meat. And yeah, but still for a first mix only of the drums, which is the purpose of this video, to see if we can mix the Crocell kit. I think it's quite fine. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please ask them on Facebook or on YouTube. I will try to answer them as best as I can. If you have other things you'd like to know, just drop me a message. If you want to keep updated about the song, how it evolves, and the other instruments which are still missing, yes, just tell me. And thanks for watching, and bye.